Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us for our update on COVID-19. On the call today is Sheriff Mike Williams, Fire Chief Keith Powers, and our Emergency Operations Center Director Steve Woodard, which will all be available for questions when we conclude this briefing. As of this morning, according to the Florida Department of Health, we have 207 positive COVID-19 cases in Duval County, and we've had 4 deaths. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families that have lost loved ones and that are experiencing this disease and just going through these really tough, uncertain times. While our positive cases have risen as a result of increased testing in our area and because we've expanded eligibility criteria, and despite being the state's largest city, we have not been one of the hardest hit, and for that we're grateful right now. For example, Duval County's testing capacity, as our testing capacity grows, our percentage of positive test results remain below many other counties in Florida and regions in the U.S. What that means is if you look at the graph, our percentage of positives to tests is running more like this, whereas many other counties are doing this. Our county's slow growth rate can be attributed to the actions that we've taken now as a community for weeks. By many of you responding and cooperating with the executive orders I've issued, together we've made progress to flatten the curve. But even now, not everyone is doing their part to flatten the curve. So for this downward trend to continue, we must remain vigilant and do more to protect our city. To that end, effective of Friday at 12:01 a.m., I am issuing a new Safer at Home executive order mandating that citizens stay in their homes except for critical and essential needs. The one thing that we can do right now to flatten the curve and get rid of this virus is to be social distancing, 6 feet apart, and practice this religiously. I want to be clear, this order is consistent with the recent order issued by Governor DeSantis to establish conformity with other safer at home orders around the state. While we're confident you'll be much safer at home in the coming weeks, I want to make it clear that this does not mean you can't go for a walk, that you can't walk your dogs, that you can't ride your bikes. Just do it responsibly. If you're out on your street and you see a neighbor, you see someone, keep your distance, you can wave, but do the 6 feet or more, and let's take care of each other. That's the only way we're going to get rid of this thing. This only prevents you from going to what are deemed as non-essential businesses. So starting Friday at 12:01 a.m., only essential businesses will be permitted to operate, and this will be consistent with the executive order the governor issued for uniformity in other counties around the state. My work from home order remains in full effect, but even if you are classified as an essential business, and if your employees can work from home, they can perform their job duties from home, they should be doing that. Essential functions include many things, including things as healthcare providers, grocery stores, news media, gas stations, financial institutions, daycares, hardware stores, laundromats, restaurants for takeout and delivery only, and more. A full list of retail and commercial businesses will be provided in the executive order, which will be posted on the city website at jacksready.com/virus. jacksready.com/virus. Look, leaders, we can make decisions, we can issue executive orders, but it's up to us as a community to act responsibly and to take care of each other. There's 1 million people in this city. We don't have 1 million police officers, and we don't want to have to deploy these resources and stretch them because people simply won't socially distance. So we've got to take this seriously. I just got off of a call with our hospital leaders. Hospitals remain in good shape. There's no concern at this point, but when this thing hits, it hits hard and it hits fast, as we've seen in other parts of the country. We're taking the steps to mitigate and stop that from happening, but we really won't know for a couple more weeks if the surge is really going to pop. We don't see evidence of that at this point, again, based on our testing rates, but we've got to continue taking the precautions to make sure that we're getting rid of this disease and virus and we're keeping each other safe. This was not an easy decision to make. All of these decisions have major impact on people's lives, financial, mental health, and it's not lost on me. The weight of these decisions are very, very impactful on individual lives in our city. But these decisions have to be made. These actions have to be taken to make sure that we're taking care of the people of Jacksonville. Over the last week, my administration has been working with JEA's leadership team, and I'm pleased to announce initiatives that will provide temporary financial assistance for all citizens. As you know, JEA suspended disconnections on March 12th, effective yesterday. They will be waiving late fees going forward until the pandemic is over. If you are a residential or small business customer struggling to pay your bill, JEA will work with you on payment plans and/or payment arrangements once this pandemic is over and you're back on your feet. JEA is planning to eliminate credit card convenience fees for 6 months starting Monday, April 6th. Plus, JEA leadership is looking for additional ways to help customers in these unprecedented times. This includes looking into possible one-time rebate for all electric customers. At my briefing to City Council yesterday, I announced a partnership with the City of Jacksonville and ViStar Credit Union to support area small businesses and their employees and bring relief to those who are struggling economically in this crisis. We're finalizing the details of that agreement and intend to introduce and pass legislation on Monday. I look forward to working with City Council and getting their support. The city's contribution to the small business lending program will be between $20 and $30 million, which will be used to provide a combination of grants, interest payments, and the potential aid toward the principal of the loan, with some elements tied to employee retention. From application to receipt of funds, the process should take about 5 days. For those of you who are experiencing high levels of stress and anxiety and facing economic difficulty, I want to remind you the resources available to provide support. We've got a list of resources on the city website at coj.net/recovery resources to help citizens get the assistance they need. Resources include information on small business express loans, emergency assistance, disaster unemployment, mental health services, nonprofit resources, and more. In closing, I'd like to remind people at 7 o'clock tonight, every night, pick up the phone and call somebody that you can listen to, that you can share with, maybe someone that you love or someone you just haven't talked to in a while. This small effort and connection can be very impactful to people's lives. I would also ask, as we take action and we do our jobs to keep people safe, to flatten the curve, I would ask our faith leaders, I would ask the people of faith in this city, our churches, to pray for our city, pray for our people, pray that people act appropriately and respond to these orders. And we're all in this together. We'll emerge better and stronger as one city. With that, we'll take questions, and we'll start with Russell with Action News.
Yeah, Mayor, regarding hotels, specifically at the beach, are they under that order to only allow reservations in the future for first responders? And speaking of first responders, can you tell me how many are in quarantine or have had positive tests?
I think the first part of your question was hotels at the beach. Yeah, the executive order is for the entire county. And by the way, I am in talks and communication with the beaches mayors, and we all agree that this is public safety before anything else. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part of the question.
Yes.
Can you ask?
First responders, how many are in quarantine or have tested positive, if any?
Fire Chief?
Yeah, good morning. So currently we have about 24 of our employees, JFRD employees, that are in quarantine due to a vast array of issues. But we have none that have tested positive so far for COVID-19.
Mike with the Daily Record.
Hi, good morning, Mayor. Just a two-part question. Where will the money come from to pay for the relief plan? Will it be the city reserve fund? Will it be debt? And then the second part of my question is, will there be kind of a hard date, deadline for businesses to apply to get the benefits, like an expiration date for the program?
The money, the first tranche of money will come from the general fund. We have built up significant reserves, over $100 million in reserves, the 4.5 years I've been in office. And then the recurring year or the following years will be a part of the budgeting process, and we'll budget them in. The second part of the question, hard date on application. We still have to introduce a bill to City Council and get that through. Once we do that, we'll have that. We'll have that information. Jim with WJXT.
Mayor, just a couple of things on the stay-at-home order. How will that be enforced? Will there be misdemeanors? Will there be charges in that way? I know that may come from the sheriff's department. Also, does that include barber shops, beauty salons, nail salons? There's been a lot of concern about that. Other part of the question. It does. Okay. We're also, you talked about the results. We're not seeing a peak at this time as they're coming in from the state. But are you getting results from Lot J, since that's where thousands have been tested? Are you getting those results? Because again, we're hearing people are not hearing anything from there.
My understanding is that information is going directly to individuals and to the Department of Health. We don't get that information directly. Again, that is, first let me say we're grateful to have that testing site here, but that is a federally run site with certain criteria. And again, individuals get those test results, as do the Department of Health.
And then on enforcement, what with your mandate now, I mean, how is that going to be enforced?
I'll let the sheriff answer that, but let me just say this again. People, just please don't put our JSO, don't put our police officers in the position. Just adhere. If you're out walking your dogs, keep your distance. If you're non-essential business, don't operate. If you are an essential business and employees can work from home, let them work from home. I mean, turn on your televisions and look at what's happening in New York and other parts of the country. We don't want that to happen in Jacksonville. And the only way we stop it, the only way we mitigate it, the only way we flatten it is to keep our distance. So, Sheriff, I'll let you take the part on enforcement.
Hey, Jim, so we do have obviously the ability to make arrests in those cases. What we've found, though, is we've got, 99% of our community is complying with all of these orders. And so even on the calls that we get where a neighbor may call and say, hey, I don't believe this business is in compliance, or I don't believe my neighbors are in compliance, we do follow those up and investigate. Most of those places actually are in compliance. And so, and the ones that are not, really, it's a little bit of re-education, encouraging them to cooperate. And we're getting a lot of that. You still have a small number of people in our community that, for whatever reason, will refuse to cooperate. And we'll deal with those, case by case. And it could be up to and including arrest. That's not the posture we want to be in, but we certainly have the ability to do it, and we will do it. We just want the community, again, as the mayor said, let's just cooperate and comply, and we'll get through this, at the end of the day, and stop the spread, flatten this curve, and do it cooperatively.
And I would add to that end, it piggybacks off of the question, the block parties that JSO was having to deal with this past weekend. People just need to stop the block parties. It shouldn't be big groups of people congregating. If you want to go out in your yard with your family, keep your distance from other folks. I mean, that's fine. If you want to talk to your neighbor 10 feet, 6 feet across the street, fine. But let's just put an end to the big groups congregating. Ann with First Coast News.
Good morning, Mayor. I know yesterday Councilmember Joyce Morgan was asking specifically for a list of kind of non-essential businesses. I wonder if you're going to be putting together a list so that people know what those are. And my second part of the question is just kind of who are you relying on? I know these decisions fall to you kind of ahead of some of the decisions that are being made at a state level. So who are you relying on to help you make those decisions kind of in the final analysis?
Well, I am in regular conversations with physicians, the leaders of our hospitals, our other mayors, our public safety experts, our sheriff, and obviously looking at the models that are happening around the country, the models that our local healthcare experts are using, and there's different models. But in the end, in a crisis, I've got to take that information and that data and make decisions. And that's what we're doing. So I'll give you an example. While our test positives are flatter than other counties, that feels good. That looks good, but I can't rest on that. We can't rest on that because where it hits, it has hit fast and it has moved fast. So I've been on calls for days now about how do we quickly expand bed capacity if we need to. And that's because you can't hope that our positives stay flat. If they do, we won't have to enact those types of measures, but we're going to be ready to if we have to. I'm grateful to have a group of experts and people around me that are giving me good data, sound models, and I tell them, if you disagree with something I'm doing, I want to hear it. And that's how we collectively come together and then make a decision to flatten the curve. Was there another part of that question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was, are you going to publish a list of non-essential businesses? I know that you've made available a list of essential, but there still seems to be some question from your council.
We've posted essential businesses. They're also listed in the executive order, and they also should have been sent or will be sent to your newsrooms. Sky with WJCT.
Hey, Mayor. Two questions. The first one is kind of bouncing off of Ann's question, which is, it seemed for a while that you didn't really want to do this stay-at-home order, but obviously you said you had a team evaluating in South Florida. Was that what made you make this decision and this change? And then the second question is, who will get these 545-minute tests? You talked about healthcare providers yesterday. Is there any more specifics that you could go into on that front?
Well, first part, the executive orders that I put into place before today were effectively stay-at-home orders, but for a few businesses. In fact, they went even a little further because of my requirement that if you can work from home, you should work from home. But as I talk to people, I hear from people, you know, in the community, words matter. And by moving to a stay-at-home order and modeling that after the order that the governor issued in South Florida, I think it sends a stronger message to people, and hopefully it gets their attention more so than the other orders, and they stay at home and they practice what we're asking them to practice. The second part is about the rapid testing. That testing will land at a local healthcare provider, and they'll administer that based on certain criteria. That's the information I have at this point. Lou with First Coast News.
Thank you, Mayor. First for you and then for the sheriff, but was there any specific tipping point for you, any moment of decision where you're just like, we've got to go with this route, what's been going on in South Florida? And then for the sheriff, as far as the block parties, you talked about having to break up. Anywhere in the city, have you had to write citations or any sort of other extra action to get rid of groups congregating?
The first part of the question, I wouldn't say a tipping point as much as I said to the previous question. That is, some of the feedback I'm getting is when I have an executive order that says if you can work from home, your employer is ordered or mandated you should work from home. The stay-at-home order is stronger language, and codifying that will hopefully send a stronger message to people to practice what they should be practicing already under existing executive orders, with a few exceptions of some businesses now that would be deemed non-essential. Sheriff, I'll let you got the next part.
Yeah, Lou, ask your question again.
Yes, sir. I'm just curious if you've had to take any extra action with, like you said, block parties, you were having to break up some of your offers. Any citations ever have to be given, or arrests, anything like that?
So not as of yet, but we have had to establish, some task force elements to be able to respond to those, so we don't tax the officers who are handling the routine calls for service. But we can issue citations and will. We can make arrests and will. We've been able to gain cooperation with the parties that we've dealt with so far, and they've broken up voluntarily. So, but again, we'll continue to do that and look, investigate, and if we find an organizer, that one individual can hold this sanction. We can cite him or make that him or her or make that arrest as well. So it's something that we're focused on, and we've got resources dedicated to handle.
Thanks, Sheriff. This will be the last question. Christopher Hong with the Florida Times Union.
Hey, Mayor. Through all of this, the city's boat ramps have remained open. We're getting a lot of questions about whether or not there were any plans to change that status, and especially now in light of the new executive order, will the ramps remain open?
They will remain open, and the governor last week put out his own order on how to practice safe boating. The expectation is that people follow the guidelines, and we want people to be able to get outside with their families from time to time, and practice social distancing and stay away from other people. So yes, the boat ramps are open. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us. If anyone has questions on what is essential, business-wise, they can call 630-CITY. Again, please follow these executive orders, and it's the only way we're going to flatten the curve. We have a trend line that is positive news, good news for us, given that our percentages of tests are flatter than some other counties. And we just want to do everything we can to maintain that and mitigate a surge of patients. This is a deadly virus for some, and we just got to take care of each other. Thank you.